Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how I make my chili sauce. It's a lot of prep work and then mostly just cooking. But first I'm going to mix all of my spices and sugar together. And yes, this is real sugar. Don't be alarmed. You're in the right place. I use regular white sugar for this because it helps with the preservation process with canning. I haven't experimented enough with honey to see if it would work, but I just stick with this because I know it works. So in this bowl, I have 1.5 cups of just white sugar and then all of my spices, and I'll bring you in closer and show you these. So 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of mustard seed, and that's yellow mustard seed, 1 tablespoon of celery seed, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1 teaspoon of allspice, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1 teaspoon of ginger. And then I just mix all of this together with a spoon. It doesn't even have to be mixed in all the way. You don't even have to mix this at all if you don't want to. So that's ready. I have 3 cups of apple cider vinegar. You could use white vinegar if you want to, but I like the apple cider vinegar. So move this out of the way. And I have a lot of tomatoes here. I think I have probably about 26 or so, and we probably won't use them all. What I usually do is I start out with my peppers. I have 3 large-ish green peppers, 3 red peppers, and 4 onions. And I cut these up first, put them in my food processor, and then I put them in my pan with my liquid and my dry mix here, and then I just fill up the pan the rest of the way with tomatoes. But the actual recipe is 18 to 24 tomatoes, depending on the size. And these are all pretty average sized tomatoes. But first I'm going to start with the peppers. And I usually get another big bowl, kind of as a garbage bowl. And I don't really want the seeds of the pepper in there, but I don't mind if the rib is in here. I just leave it in. And I'm not going to really fine chop everything because it's going in the food processor anyways, but this gives it a head start. And I've already washed everything, so it's ready to go. And I just have an 8-quart large pan here, and that's ready to go. So as soon as I start grinding all of this up, I'll just put it right into my pot. Green pepper is done. Now we'll move on to our red pepper. And again, just rough chop. And just keep going with your red pepper. These are really, really big onions. I might even just use 3, but we'll see. And again, no amazing knife skills are needed, just rough chop. I'll probably just do 3 because they're so big. And it's okay if you cry over your onions. Last onion in here. And now that our onion and our pepper are in the pot, I'm going to bring over our other stuff and add that to the pot, and then we'll just fill up the rest with tomatoes. But I'll show you all of this. I'll bring it in closer. I have a really big spoon. So there is our onion and pepper. 3 cups of apple cider vinegar. And now we'll add in our sugar and spice mixture and just give this a good stir. The vinegar will also make you cry a little bit. I cleaned out our garbage bowl. I don't know if you've ever made anything like this before, but once it gets cooking, it really starts to get your eyes going. And I just cut off the stem end and then the little bottom end if it's biggish. And again, just big chunks of tomatoes into the food processor. And this will make a mess of your kitchen. You'll have tomato seeds everywhere for weeks. You could probably do this with canned tomatoes, although I never have. And just keep going with the rest of your tomatoes. You could peel these if you want to, but I usually don't. If you don't have a food processor, you could use a blender, or even just fine chop everything. That works fine too. I think this will be all I can fit in my pan. I think I ended up using about 16 tomatoes. If they're really big, I usually just gauge how full I can get my pot without bubbling over. But if you have really small tomatoes, you'll definitely be using more. So this is the last of the tomatoes. And give this a good stir. I'm going to turn my pan on to high. Once that comes up to a boil, I'll turn it down to about medium and just let it simmer. It's going to simmer for about 4 hours. You want it to reduce down, so I usually go just over half of the pan full. That's how much I want it to reduce. And we can usually get, anywhere between 8 and 10 pints out of it. You could do quart jars, but for me, pints work the best. But I'm going to clean all of this up and use these for another batch. And you'll notice as it starts cooking, it will burn your eyes a little bit. And that's the first warning. The second warning is it makes a mess all over everything. I don't even have towels on my oven here because it will bubble and splatter everywhere. But that's okay. And it will smell really strong. And you'll notice that if you go outside and come back in, it's really strong. Your neighbors will smell it. People down the street will smell it. But it smells really good. So just keep cooking that down. I'll show you as it progresses through these about 4 hours that I'm going to cook it. And then I'll show you how I can it into jars. Once your chili sauce starts to boil, I'm going to turn the heat down to medium and give it a good stir. So you saw how much my chili sauce has cooked down. It's been about 3.5 hours. I have this large pot boiling. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm sterilizing my jars, and I have 11 jars. It's 8 to 10, but I do a little jelly jar size, just, for any extra that won't fit into a pint. So this is ready. I have my lids simmering back there. I don't think you can see that, but I have everything ready. Rings, funnel, jar lifter, lid lifter, this, ladle, and hot pads. Everything's really hot. I cleaned everything up quite a bit, but this splatters everywhere. Floors, walls, microwave, everywhere. Yourself. So turn your heat off and bring this over here. It's covered. And I want this to turn down just a little bit so it doesn't splatter all over me while I get the jars out. Get a dish rag. So what we're going to do is take your lid off here and be very careful with everything. And I just drain out the liquid. Move it closer. Move this closer. And just start filling up your jar. And I leave about 1/4 inch. And while that's sitting there, I get my next jar. Wipe off the rim here. Get your lid, get your ring, get a hot pad, and I tighten it, and then I put it right back into my boiling water. And very carefully keep going. And if you overfill one jar, just take a little spoon, put it into your next jar. But you always want to make sure to wipe the rims off so you get a good seal. And And it's always best to have extra jars because you really never know how much a batch is going to make. So I've got my 9 jars in my water bath, and I'm going to put the lid back on and let this come back up to a boil. I'm going to turn it back up to high. And I don't have enough, throwing things around the kitchen. I don't have enough to do another pint or even this jelly jar, but it will be perfect to just put in the fridge and eat it first. There, about a half of a little jelly jar. So once this comes back up to a boil, it's almost back up to a boil. Boil this, I'll probably turn it back down to medium just so it doesn't splatter everywhere, and it might anyways. So I'm gonna boil and process this for about 30 minutes, and then I'll take it out and put it on this towel, and then just let them come to room temperature, and then they'll seal. Meanwhile, I'm gonna clean everything up, and I'll pick you back up when they're finished. I have another batch ready to go. So I'm gonna get this one started. This one is just ready to come out and cool off here. And be very careful. Don't forget to turn your burner off. Last one. Now I'm just going to let these sit here and cool off, and they'll seal, and then they'll be ready to go on your shelf or give away to friends and neighbors or family. And this is the little bit that I didn't can that will go in the fridge. One time I did 8 batches of chili sauce in about a 4-day time period. I lived in a small apartment. Everything smelled like chili sauce. Even a month later, I'd come home from work and everything smelled like chili. It smelled like chili sauce. And then about a month and a half after that, I went on vacation and I packed all of my things in a bag, and every time I went to get a new outfit for the day out of my bag, it smelled like chili sauce. So 2 months later, everything smelled like chili sauce. Not a bad thing, but I'm forewarning you, everything you own will smell like chili sauce. So let's give this a bite. It's pretty good. This is the chili sauce that I use for my pulled pork, my meatloaf. This is really good just on a hamburger. This is also really good on breakfast. If you make potatoes and eggs and sausage, it's really good on that. Really, wherever you like ketchup, this is a good substitute, or barbecue sauce. I'm gonna keep going with my next batch, make everything smell like chili sauce. Thank you again for everybody that has subscribed and my patrons. It really helps me. As we know, gluten-free things are kind of expensive. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the next one.